Hi, I'm Patrick Boehler and I worked on a Pangolin Reports, a collaborative investigation by more than 40 environmental journalists in Asia, Africa, and Europe. I'm thrilled to get to talk to you today about this project, the story, how we reported it, and what we learned from this collaboration. We documented the illicit trade of pangolins from roadside stalls in Cameroon and Nigeria to prisons and transit hubs like Kathmandu in Hong Kong, to restaurant kitchens in Myanmar and Vietnam, and pharmaceutical companies in China. In the Philippines, we told the story of how local officials could not curb trafficking because they feared undermining their chances of re-election by their poaching electorate. In Indonesia, we tied the trade to a leading drug syndicate. We found ties to law enforcement and crime syndicates, rebel groups, and corrupt local governments along the supply chain, and concluded that criminal syndicates compete to meet demand mostly from China. So how do we report this story? We shared reporting openly amongst partnering journalists and built our data sets together to find evidence for smuggling routes, law enforcement patterns and loopholes, and pricing, and made that information available to each other and the public. We offered coordinating support to the participating newsrooms so that the project would not be too much of a burden on their often scarce resources. This allowed us to make sure that we could meet the reporters' needs in terms of support, scientific expertise, and information from other countries. We could also then fact-check claims and encourage reporters to dig deeper when we found contradictions. As a third party, we could also match reporters from several countries that would otherwise not collaborate and build trust. This was really crucial because if done locally, unilaterally, this reporting usually runs into barriers. A Nepalese reporter would rarely get access to the Chinese sources a Chinese reporter would get hold of. And it'd be hard for a Chinese reporter to get Nigerian customs data or access to police sources in Indonesia. We shared text and visual material on Google Drive, and then asked everyone to comment on the drafts, allowing everyone to correct bias and suggest improvements. It might seem overwhelming when dozens of people can edit a document at the same time, but it really worked. We then worked with former colleagues to copy edit that work. The mandate was not to standardize the prose, but really to elevate the voices of the reporters. In this way, the partnering media benefited from our economies of scale at very low cost. Top-notch, fair, and accurate reporting from their own reporters, and information and compelling information and visuals from a dozen countries. And we made sure to share that reporting, the visuals, and the data with using a Creative Commons license to avoid any hassle with copyright issues down the line. So what have I learned? What we did differently? The effort of collecting link URLs of the almost 100 articles we published and the social media reactions for our impact report made me realize that the links and the likes, they don't say much about impact. So one key impact outcome was building bridges across borders to empower journalists to tell more stories better together. The other was really sparking conversations about that reporting locally. And I didn't have enough data on that latter. So we started the Wildlife Study Group, a series of online conversations in Malaysia. Hundreds of people joined them, and they opened my eyes to how audiences could experience news as a community moment to some degree at scale. We live streamed the first captive-born pangolin. We discussed animal breeding in conversations. We discussed hunting and conservation with indigenous communities. And we had traditional Chinese medicine practitioners discuss the use of scales in recipes. So it's really great if your journalism gets a ton of page views and likes, and it's great if it wins awards. But what really matters is sparking social change by starting and contributing to locally relevant conversations. And that is where the power of collaborative journalism lies. After this project, I moved on to work at Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, a network of public service newsrooms in 23 countries where a free press is not fully established. We regularly collaborate among our newsrooms and media partners such as the great team at OCCRP. The Environmental Reporting Collective continues to do its great work. My former colleagues just published a fantastic data investigation in Vietnam, where they spent 2 years speaking to wildlife traffickers about the future of their illicit trade after the pandemic and analyzed 10 years worth of data. This is groundbreaking work in Vietnam. If you're interested in their work, visit the website investigative.earth and take a look at their newsletter, Green Echoes, in English and in Chinese. They also run a Slack group for environmental journalists. And if you're interested in Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and its vitally important work in Russia and Belarus, Iran, Afghanistan, and elsewhere, visit rferl.org and follow our accounts on various platforms. And please do get in touch if there's an opportunity to collaborate. Thank you.